Hello again and welcome back. I'm going to talk to you today about mounting cameras inside of an airplane. There might be a little controversy about this for some people because I know a lot of people use the suction cup camera mounts. There's a couple of reasons I don't like them. One is that the plexiglass isn't really very steady, and a lot of times there's vibrations. You can see it on a lot of videos. It's sort of a figure-8 vibration. It's a very particular kind of a vibration that we notice, and it's annoying once you recognize it, especially if you're doing editing and you know it's not going to be the very best video you can do. So I'd like to avoid that kind of vibration. Secondly, as you may know, I do pre-purchase inspections for people buying Cardinals, and I have on a couple of occasions come across Cardinals in which those suction cups had permanently deformed the plexiglass with an optical impact. There was one plane down in Texas that had about a dozen spots on the windshield that were optically twisted, because of the suction cups that have been on there. Now that's Texas, and I'm sure it's hot there, and maybe that's a little bit of a special case. But it made me want to not use suction cups if I could avoid it. Also, the windows of the Cardinal, the suction cup doesn't really get into the right place. So what I noticed got into the right place was actually this area right here, this doorpost. And so I got to thinking, what would happen if we pop this little cover off here? Oh, look, there's a screw under there. See, that looks promising. And if we spin this guy out, yeah, it's a 1032. There's a nice mount in there. So that shows some promise. So what I did was I got a little longer screw, and I got a hold of one of these ball mount camera mounts here. This particular one has a choice. You can have a 1/4-20 in the bottom or a 3/8 inch hole. And the little adapter in here is an interesting little piece of kit, as they say in the UK. This is the first one I made. I actually built it out of a 3/8 inch bolt. And I cut it, drilled it on the lathe, machined it. It was a nice little piece of precision work. And that's what I came out here today to show you, is how to make this little piece of thing on the lathe. But, I was pulling this adapter out, and I thought, my God, that's just about the same part. So I gave it a try, and sure enough, if I mount this, I slide this longer screw through that little adapter, and you mount it up on this guy here, it works out pretty well. Now, I will admit to you that the standard screw diameter is a little bit bigger. If you notice there, it's a little bit bigger than the center of a 3/8 inch bolt. So I had to turn this down a little bit, or just spin it down with the file. Put it on the drill press or inside of it, chuck it in the drill or something and spin it down. So now we have a 3/8 inch post mounted on the side of the airplane, and we can just spin this camera mount right on there, you see? And then pick your camera of your choice. Now I use, my cameras are drift cameras, Drift Ghost. This is a Drift Ghost X. What's really nice about this is you can mount it at any angle, and then you can rotate the lens so that the lens is horizontal to the horizon. Let's see, where is it at? There's a little up arrow on it. So this is the one that looks at the panel, which is kind of a cute shot. Now, there's some times I wish that this could be a little bit better, because I can't always get the right angles. And one of the things that I was working on was mounting this on the right side of the airplane and mounting this camera. Not because this is the right kind of camera, but because it's a camera that I have. And I thought, well, let's just use what we have, see what we can do. And I thought, well, I'll just point it at me so I could get some pilot shots here. And what I found was it was hard to get the right angles because it was too close to the wall here, and it was hitting the wall. So I couldn't get some of the angles I wanted. So what I'm working on here, I'm going to unmount this here. Try not to drop it, and that would be embarrassing on camera. So what I'm working on here is a system whereby perhaps I can space this out a little bit. Now, the solution to that, I think, is going to be this little guy here, which is a coupler. You can buy these at Menards, right? And then I use just a little piece of a bolt here. I saw off a piece of bolt and put it in here. And so now you can mount this coupler on here, tighten it up nice, put the ball camera mount on there, thread that guy on, and now, with any kind of camera that you might have, you have a lot of room to mount things at whatever angles you'd like to do there. So you can mount it like this, you can mount it underneath, fix it in post-processing. There's all kinds of interesting options for mounting there. So this, I think, turns out to be a really handy thing, and I highly recommend it. When you get the whole thing off again, so we'll spin this off. Okay, we'll spin this off first. Then you spin that off. And for the rest of your flying, when you're not shooting video, You just have a little small post that stands proud there. Now I've been looking at the next idea, which is to make a couple of shorter ones of these. I don't know if I should cut one in half or in 1/3, 2/3, so that I have a little bit of standoff for one side, more standoff for the other where I'm trying to take a shot of pilot or co-pilot. So that's my solution for the Cardinal panel shot mounting to the side walls. I also have a camera that I mount to the overhead, which I use for my general looking forward shots and for a general view of the panel. And I mount that up in the center console here. Now, I've seen a lot of different kind of mounting systems, but the one that I came up with was something that matches the Cardinal in particular. There's a hole right in here. This hole is for access to an adjustment screw. That adjustment screw changes the aiming on the light that's behind this red lens here. That's a wash light that puts light on the dash, if you'd like. And of course, I've got internal lighting, and I don't usually use the wash light. But it's there, and it's got an adjustment at the top of this hole. And this hole then goes through the plenum up here that lets the cold air in. So what I've done is I've invented a little gadget that goes up inside that hole. Now this is a piece of field line. This is a 3/8 inch bolt, as you see here. It's a carriage bolt, and the end is ground down just a little bit so that it matches up inside there. A washer, a nut, and then the end of it, as you notice, is slit. It's just sort of with a saw blade, or I might have used a grinder to put an angle across there, so that's a standard screwdriver kind of a notch on there. So I've turned this down just a little bit on either the lathe or I might even chucked it up at a screwdriver and run a sandpaper on it or something like that. So that it's just the right diameter to slide up inside this hole. So that's like that. So it slides up in there. And then I use a screwdriver to hold the bolt in place like this. And I just tighten down with a wrench. And as it tightens down, of course it squeezes that hose. By squishing it endwise, it makes it larger in diameter. And so it gets tighter and tighter as I go, and as I get to that point, it's in there good and solid. It's not going to go anywhere. So then once again, one of my little camera mount guys with a ball adjustment on it. This guy threads in there, usually pretty easily. Just not on camera easily. That's a little detail about cameras. And then once that gets tightened up there, again, we pretty easily can pick the camera of our choice and spit it on there. And tighten it up and pick the angle, tilt it to the right angle, the right width. And again, in this camera, I can rotate the lens so that it's 90 degrees or when it's horizon, even with horizon, which is nice. So sometimes, if I want to get it out of the way, or for some other reason, I might just tuck it over here and then rotate the lens to that angle. So now it's a little more out of the way, but it's still level to the horizon. And that's the nice thing about these cameras. I think a lot of them, you have to mount the camera level. This one you can just turn the lens to level. So that's a real nice thing. So that's how that one goes. And most of the videos that I've shot, with a few exceptions in the early years, have been done with a camera mounted in this way. And then the last thing I do is I run a wire, which I know is back here. Here it is. This little wire that comes from my my Pilot's. I have a Limo plug on my headphones, which is powered for the noise canceling headphones, so I don't have to put batteries in those noise canceling headphones. But in my regular headphone jack, I just have an adapter. And then I've built a little bit of a resistance circuit to match impedance. And then from here I can just plug in right on the back the microphone, the audio into the back of the camera. So it hangs up here most of the time. So that's how that works. Hope that's interesting. Hope it helps you with your installation. Have a good day. We'll catch you on the next one.